My friends, welcome to this episode of the Outdoor Gear Review, where it is time for a test night. What we have here is the Hyke and Byke Zion 2-person tent. Is it waterproof? How is ventilation, condensation, and moisture control? In this episode, we will find out. If you watched my preview of this tent, then you know that I had some issues with it. I had issues with the product itself, the way that it was designed, and also issues with the company itself. I did not like the way that they marketed this product. I felt like they were being deceptive in many ways. For one thing, the zippers were not as stated. The company stated they were YKK. They're not. The company also stated that this tent is ultralight, and it's not. This tent weighs 6.1 pounds for a 2-person tent. That's far away from being ultralight, and the company should know better. With the stakeout locations of this tent, they're non-adjustable, so the pitch of the tent is not very good. And you can see that today with the setup that I've just done. Take a look here, everyone, at the sides of the tent, the left side and the right side. You can see just how poor this has pitched. Especially on this side, you can see this little bit of a bowl here. And that's because the stakeout points are non-adjustable. You can only pull them so tight. You have these pre-cut sections of cord, and that's it. And that prevents this tent from being pulled as tight as it should be. If you're setting up this tent on a perfectly flat surface, no big deal, you'll get a good enough pitch. But this is a great example of the real world. As you can see, there's a little bit of a slope here to the ground, so the pitch is not perfect, and it can't be made perfect because there's no way to adjust those stakeout points. My advice, if you have this tent, you plan to buy this tent, whatever, you can use shock cord or you can use your own line adjusters. Both will improve the setup process of this tent substantially. After putting up my preview, the initial thought video of this tent, I did speak with the owner of the company, and I have to say that I wasn't impressed. I will not go into any sort of details, but basically the company, the individual blamed everybody else. In the end, everyone, the product will speak for itself. I've already mentioned the issues, the problems that I have with the product and the company. So as far as the company goes, I'm done. I'm not going to talk about that anymore. With the tent, let's let it speak for itself. Is this going to be a waterproof product? Is it going to have issues with condensation, moisture control, ventilation? We will find out in this episode. With the products that I review here on the channel, I have no biases. I let the products speak for themselves. I point out the good, the bad, and ultimately you all can decide what you think. In the end, the decision is yours. The point of this channel, the point of this review is to share information, and that's it. I want to give you all the information that you need to make an educated decision because there's so many products out there. This tent is a great example. Is it any good? Well, we know that it has some problems. Make sure to check out my preview to get all the details on those. Even with the issues that I've pointed out previously, there's a potential here for a good performing tent, especially for the money. This tent runs roughly $135, which is not bad for a 2-person tent. So everyone, let it rain, let it rain. Let's put this tent to the test. Let's see how well it performs. Good luck, Zion 2. We will see what happens here. I should say this, when I was setting up the tent, I had the fly pulled back so I can tie the fly to the poles. Basically, I have this set up for storm mode. When I was tying the fly to the pole, I did notice that some of the seam tape is beginning to come off. So I don't know if there's going to be an issue there with leaking or not, but it is peeling away from the fabric. And that's unfortunate because this tent is brand new. I've set the tent up 3 times. It has seen no use at all. And already the seam tape is beginning to peel off of the fly itself. So that's not a good sign. Is it going to leak? I don't know. Let's find out. By the way, folks, pause the video, comment down below, share your thoughts. Will this tent leak? I can't wait to read your comments. My friends, it did not take long for the rain to begin. It is on. Absolutely coming down. It's pouring right now. Huge drops. This is going to be an excellent test for the Zion 2. Did you know this is not the only company that makes the Zion 2? There's another company out there. I can't remember their name right off, but they also make a Zion 2 tent that looks to be exactly the same as this one. That's a little bit strange, isn't it? Anyways, the rain is coming down. The tent's been basically in a good downpour for about an hour now. I cannot wait to see later on if it's leaked or not. The first downpour was rather heavy, and right now this is a good, sustained, moderate rain. That's what this series is all about. It's all about taking these tents out and really pushing them. We need to know, I need to know, you need to know, are they waterproof? Can they be trusted? That's my biggest question for this tent. Can it be trusted in the backcountry when the weather makes a turn for the worst? Because that's the real world. You check the forecast, the weather's great, you go out for your trip and it rains the entire time, or there's a knockdown thunderstorm. That's what happens. All right, everyone, the rain has stopped for the moment. Let's check on this tent. That was a fairly substantial rain event. I would say maybe half an inch of rain fell. The creeks are up just a little bit. So that's a good start for this rain test. Let's check on it. Let's see if it leaked. Go ahead and turn the flashlight on for you all. So you can see here, there's quite a bit of splashback on the body. Let's hop in here. Okay. Now, something has definitely been happening here. I'm not sure if you all could see this, but the floor is wet. So this is what's happened so far, everyone. You can see here with the fly how it pulls away from the tent. It does not pull away far enough, and we've had incredible amounts of splashing taking place. You can see here all of the mesh, it's dirty, it's covered in dirt, and now the floor of this tent is soaking wet. Very interesting. This side too, it's the same way. Very wet. Actually, you can see here, the mesh is soaking wet. Interesting. The problem that this tent is having is a substantial one, and it's all because of the fly. Because of the design, you really can't pull this away from the body. You can't do so enough. So what happens? Heavy rain, water's rolling off the fly, it's splashing. The fly is so close to the body that it bounces back into the tent. That does happen with many tents out there, but with this one, it's especially bad. And that's because you cannot pull this far enough away, even though you could. If this line was adjustable, you could stake it out even further away, and you could have this pulled up and away from the body. You wouldn't really think that it would make that much of a difference, but it does. Having the fly away from the body, it makes all the difference in the world. This is a very interesting result so far. There's quite a bit of water inside of this tent, and the thing is, it's wet all the way around. So the body's like right over here, and here's the fly itself. You don't have much distance from the edge of the fly to the body itself. So the inside of this tent is getting wet. Remember when I pointed out the issue with the seam tape? It has been leaking from that point. Take a look, everyone. So hopefully you could see over here in the corner, right here is that spot with the seam tape. There's water droplets that are going down the fly here. Hopefully you all can see that. But they've been running down the fly and going to the ground. I do not see the issue taking place on this side of the tent. Let's go to the other side. Okay. Looking over here, I do not see any drips yet. Looking around the top, I do not see any. And I do not see any over here. So to recap, this is what's taking place so far. The tent is leaking. It's leaking right from this corner. Right here is where it's tied off, and it's leaking right around here, maybe around this junction. The water that's leaking through the fly is not making its way into the tent as of yet. It's simply running down the fly. Now on the inside, the entire body is soaking wet. And that's because the fly itself does not pull far enough away from the tent body. The last thing that I want to mention here is the pitch. Because of the lack of adjustability, the overall pitch of this tent really does look like crap. It's unfortunate that you cannot really pull this very tight. I mean, again, if you're on a completely flat surface, it will be better than this. But this is not a flat surface. This is the real world. This is out in the woods. So there's a little bit of a slope here. It's not level. And you can see the pitch is just terrible. It really is. Because of the way the fly has been cut and the limited adjustability, you can have the sides tight, but the doors will be loose, or vice versa. There's not enough material here. There's not enough adjustability. So when you pull on one side, it negatively affects the other side, which is a problem as we're seeing now. Everyone, it is the next day. It's still raining, but luckily it's not very heavy. Let's check on this tent and let's wrap up this episode. I'm looking to see if there's been any leaks on the inside, and I do not see any. Now, of course, everything is wet, and that's because of the splashback. Hopefully you can see here just how wet this is. The mesh is covered in water. It's also covered in dirt. The floor itself is wet. And the same is true on this side. Basically, folks, I don't need to say this all again to summarize it, but I will. This tent does leak. There's an issue with the seam taping on this side, and water's making its way through. As far as the rest of the fly goes, I do not see any issues. There's no big puddles inside of this tent or anything like that. So I would say it's minor leaking from that point. The biggest issue is the splashback that's taking place, namely here on the sides, but also on the front and back. By the way, everyone, the company that makes the other version of the Zion 2, their version of the tent is quite a bit lighter weight than this one. This is 6 pounds, their version is 3 pounds. I thought I should mention that before I wrap up this episode because I was looking into this a little bit more. Because the tent is wet, I'm not going to stay in it because it's an unfair test. I cannot test ventilation, condensation, moisture control, and so on when the inside is wet. So look for my review in the future where I will share my thoughts, my opinions, and the overall results from that testing. Based on what you all have seen so far with this tent, my question for you all is this: is it worth purchasing? Comment down below. Do you trust this company? Do you trust this tent? For $135, whatever it is this a good purchase for you based upon what you've seen so far in the preview and also in this test night episode? Based upon the results of this test night episode, I can tell you all that this tent should not be used in heavy rainfall. The overall design of this is not conducive for protection. Also, there are quality control issues. We have the seam tape that's beginning to peel off. And actually, when I was editing this video and looking at that footage, it looks like there may be something else going on there. It almost looks like there's an issue with the fabric itself. Maybe it's coming apart. I'm not really sure. Once I get this tent dried out, I will take a closer look at that and talk about it in the review. So there you have it, everyone. Those are the results from the test night episode. Again, everyone, my job is to share information, and that's it. And in this episode, I've certainly done that. This tent has some issues. And the question you should be asking yourself is this: how big are those issues? Make sure to hit the thumbs up because it does help the channel. If you want to support the channel on YouTube or Patreon, that is appreciated. You can join the Wolf Pack. So take care, be well. I will talk to you all again soon. Bye for now.